Hello, Danny Dumaresque. You're on the air.
Good morning there, Patty. How are you?
I'm doing fine today, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, thanks. I wanted to call this morning because I have been researching a little bit more, and recently I just got a documentation there too concerning the electricity rates. What's going to happen with electricity rates as a result of Muskrat Falls?
You got a document from who?
Well, I got a document which is basically a response to a question that was answered by Nalcor to a written question that was asked of them. Their document for the first time confirms for me that in 2018, which would be the first year, this is their projection now, assuming that all the numbers are as they are today.
Just set the stage for us, though, Danny. What was the question they were asked here, so we know where we're starting?
Yeah, the question that was asked is, what will be the payment that Newfoundland Hydro will have to make to Nalcor? Because, as you know, the way it's set up is that there's going to be a power purchase agreement between Nalcor and Hydro, and Hydro will have to pay Nalcor for 100% of the power, whether they use it or not, but that's the way it's set up. And the federal loan guarantee stipulates, one of the stipulations with the federal loan guarantee is that there will have to be a guaranteed revenue stream year over year to satisfy the repayment, the complete repayment of the project, including interest and financing, and that's going to be watched by the federal oversight engineer that's yet to be appointed, assuming we get the federal loan guarantee in place. So that was the question that was asked, and the answer that came back was that it's split into two different parts. There will be a charge for the Labrador generation and transmission, and then a charge to the for the transmission from Soldiers Pond down to Muskrat Falls. And the combined total is $418,500,000. $418,500,000.
Over what time frame is that number?
Now that is for the 1 year. That's the first year.
Okay.
That's the first year that we will be using Muskrat Falls power. Now, basically $420 million is what's going to be required from Hydro to Nalcor to satisfy paying the debt. Now, if you look at the present sales of Newfoundland Hydro, and you say to yourself, well, where are they going to get $420 million? Well, at the present time, of course, they're burning around $140 million worth of oil at Holyrood. And, of course, if we have Holyrood shut down, which we will not for at least 5 or 6 years after the power comes on, we may just give the benefit of the doubt and say we save $150 million. We're still going to have to come up with $270 million of brand new revenue into Newfoundland Hydro. And, of course, that will mean right now from 35 to 45% in the basic electricity charge to the people of the province. And that is quite scary, because Nalcor at this point in time and before the federal loan guarantee came out were going around telling people that you're only going to have a 2% increase, keeping up with inflation, and that's going to be basically a nominal increase, and it's going to be that for a long time to come. But these are the numbers. These are the numbers that we have to work with, and there will have to be undoubtedly a major increase in the first year, and then depending on the rate of return that's in place, it certainly could mean very significant increases in the years follows, much, much more than they're saying in their rate calculator for the 2% they're talking about.
Yeah, now the rate calculator, I mean, I didn't give it a whole lot of credence because there's a lot of things that probably were not included in it, and I listened very closely to what you just said there, so I have two questions. Where's Newfoundland Power come in to any of the particular fees that may be on top of consumption. And the numbers that you just used, I didn't find any of those frightful or what seemed to be untoward or out of line. Am I missing something?
Well, I mean, what do you mean they're not frightful? If you've got to come up, Newfoundland Hydro got to come up with $420 million of either savings or new revenue to pay Nalcor in year one. So, in order to do that, the rates to the ratepayers got to increase from anywhere from 35 to 45%, depending on the savings of oil. There's no other way to cut it. If you're only have revenue of around $700 million a year, well, in order to come up with $250 million, you got to increase your rates 35 to 45%.
Well, I guess that's the number one question here is where can the coverage of that fee or charge come from? Because we do know that any of the sales on the spec market, any industrial sales, do not indeed go towards lessening my burden, my bill as a residential ratepayer. So there's the question, isn't it?
That's the question, and the other thing that's salient is the federal loan guarantee came in after these projections of 2%, and they came in after the rate calculator. Yep. But the federal loan guarantees very clear. One of the conditions is that this project has to show a revenue stream for 100% recovery of the cost on the backs of the ratepayer. And certainly if we're going to sign on to that agreement, which appears that we intend to, then that's where I think that the rates are, because as you remember in the past, what they were talking about is that they would be able to set a artificial rate to the ratepayer, and you'd be able to have what I always termed before was a political rate, that Cabinet would be able to set a rate that would be politically palatable. But now, of course, with the federal loan guarantee condition, that means that we're going to have to start in year one to demand from the ratepayer that these rates will have to go up. And I mean,
but none of that changed with the federal loan guarantee, though. One of the problems people had, and I had with the whole Muskrat Falls thing, is that I was responsible as a ratepayer for 100% payment of what is just a capital debt. Doesn't matter if it's power generation or whatever the case may be. We borrow money. There's an interest charge, service charge, in-house Nalcor finagling. We were always going to repay. So the federal government loan guarantee caveat didn't change the game at all.
Well, it did.
On that front.
It did to me because it demands 100% recovery, but up to the 2 years before that, in every piece of information that's been put out by Nalcor, including their cash flow statements that they supplied to the PUB and the environmental assessment, they always said and stuck to the position that there will only be a 2% increase per year starting when the first power came on, so that the retirement of the debt would not be borne all by the ratepayer, because obviously with 2% increase a year, you're only talking about $15 or $20 million, and that is going to be inconsequential to paying back an annual requirement, an annual payment of $420 million.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, what was happening, and you remember the language, what they were saying is that we're going to use revenue from our non-renewables to pay for this renewable project, which basically, in layman's terms, they were going to take the offshore oil equity payments that were coming into Nalcor, not to the Department of Finance. They're going to take those equity payments from the oil and then slide them over to Newfoundland Hydro so that the account would balance.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was intended to work in the beginning, but now the federal loan guarantee is demanding that there be 100% revenue on the backs of the ratepayer year over year.
Well, it just demands that it be covered 100% in full, so the question can indeed still be posed, and legitimately so. Of the $700 million or whatever the numbers are proposed or forecasted revenue, can some of that go towards this coverage of that fee? Because there's nothing that says it can't, as far as I understand. Danny, would you send me that, what you got in your hand?
Yes, I will. I will get the answer to that question and those numbers, so you can clearly see it. And the other thing I'd like to leave you with this morning is that there's going to be, as soon as the PUB now renders a decision on the 7.2% increase for Newfoundland Power, now Newfoundland Hydro is preparing for the first general rate application to the PUB since the Nalcor was created, in 2008, they're going to be coming forward with a general rate application in the order of another 8% this year. And the reason they're going to be doing that is because for the first time since Nalcor was created, the government is not going to be passing over money from general revenue to cover the difference in the cash required to meet its return on equity, which this government, by secret order in council in 2009, doubled the rate of return from 4.7 up to 9-point-some%. They doubled it. So right now, over the last 3 years, the government has basically been subsidizing the price of electricity and allowing cash that was taken from general revenue to be taken and put over by Nalcor over to the Newfoundland Hydro cash account so that it would not have to come in for a general rate application.
Yeah.
But now the chicken is coming home to roost. There's no more cash, and the legal requirement now is on Newfoundland Hydro to pay a 9+% dividend on the rate of return, and therefore now they have to come back again looking for another increase, and this is going to be on top of the one that the PUB is going to be making now to Newfoundland Power.
The PUB is kind of hamstrung anyway here with some of the new legislation and what have you, but I'm curious where that money can come from in year one to cover that charge or that fee. I think that's the important question we have to get answered on the heels of that. But if you send me that, Danny, I will also try and chase it, and I appreciate your call. I'm after the break.
I'm telling you, our ratepayers, Paddy, are really in for a major wake-up, and the backdrop to this is that everybody in Nova Scotia, the Premier and everybody in Emira is going around pounding their chests and saying we're so grateful that we're not going to have any increase in our rates for the next 35 years because we're getting the power from Newfoundland. I mean, what a joke.
Well, they got their own issues in Nova Scotia, no doubt about that. Listen, Dan, you send me that stuff, and I appreciate that call, and you send me what you got there, and let's all see what we can find out.
Okay, Paddy.
Appreciate it. All the best. See you, Danny. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. I mean, some of the legislation, what was it, Bill 1661, they really did take away some of the PUB oversight, setting rates. The new industrial plan in Labrador, I thought was a good one, and made a lot of sense, because the government then could indeed do what they saw fit to make sure the prices were conducive to repayment and filling the coffers. I don't know if Mr. Dumaresque sends it over. I'll see if I can't get a few additional answers, but that one's a bit of a tangle. The key is where can we get some of those X number of hundreds of millions? Does that have to come strictly from the ratepayer? I don't know, and I don't read that into anything I just heard. If it does, then we have a new problem of additional requirement. But if it can come from the other avenues of where the power sale is going to take place, then that's its own kettle of fish. So I guess we're going to have to find out. Just quickly, we talked about poll manipulation stuff, right?